This episode of the ChatGTM Podcast is brought to you by Budget Branders, your source for custom branded cups and bags. So what makes them unique? Well, they source using a hybrid supply model, they import to keep prices low, and they have domestic backup to fill in the gaps. Learn more at budgetbranders.com or connect with Budget Branders on LinkedIn. And now it's time for the show. Hey, everybody. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, or whatever time you happen to be tuning in. Welcome back to the ChatGTM Podcast. If you're joining us again, and if you're a first-time listener or watcher, you know what? We're really excited to have you along for the journey. My name's Michael Beck, your irascible host over here at Ink Tank GTM. Joined with me, as almost always, my business partner in crime, my co-conspirator, and the guy who was dancing with a robot with me in Vegas. Oh my God, it was awesome. Chad Horn, how you doing today, Chad?
Really good. We're back from travels. I feel like I'm on an overdose of sleep now. So we're riding high.
Yeah, my Woot band has been reminding me quite regularly that I have sleep debt I need to make up on, and it actually didn't yell at me this morning. So I think I'm doing things right.
Yes.
So for those who've been watching along or seen us on our feeds, we have been nonstop on the road for almost the last 3 weeks with the CRTRA conference, the RSPA show. What else? What am I missing? There was one other stop that we made.
Don't even know. You might know. Did we both do? I don't know.
Yeah, it's whirlwind. It's whirlwind. No, the Texas Restaurant Association show.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, literally just boom, boom, boom. And so now we actually have what we call a little bit of downtime, which means we're just going to be back at the office in the studio to do some work. And today we have something really fun going on. Chad, do you want to do the pre-announce on who our guest is before I do the read?
Yeah, you need to read. This is someone that I was very excited to have on our show. Probably the most excited I've been, honestly. Apologies to all of our previous guests, because she works with somebody. I feel like I'm one of the OGs following Mr. Gary Vaynerchuk out there, and consuming all of his content. Meeting him in person at VCon, got to do that in Indianapolis. It was amazing. This is Mr. Mic Drop for me. And so I know how he approaches culture and people. And so even before we met Claude, we knew she's going to be an absolute gangster at culture because of the team she's on. So, and then now, Claude, we've been following you, watching your stuff. And yeah, so many moments like, ooh, that's good. So really interested in this conversation.
Yeah, so excited to work with somebody and talk to somebody that works with somebody at such velocity. Mm-hmm. As Gary. And it's also interesting how you can keep a culture that runs at that kind of speed. And I think that's a really interesting concatenation of things that happen to go, wow, it's like an alchemy, right? You put all these things together, you get critical mass and boom. And clearly Gary's got it down. And I know, Chad, secretly you have a little bit of fanboy in that because you went down the NFT route, and he was like, you had a company that did that.
I got my NFT somewhere still in my wallet. I haven't checked in a while, but it's there.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get Claude out of the virtual green room after we do our read in here. And so everybody, today we're talking about something that rarely appears on a balance sheet, but somehow influences everything else. It's our humanity. And our guest today is Claude Silver, the Chief Heart Officer of VaynerMedia. And for years, she's helped shape the culture of one of the world's most recognized marketing companies by putting emotional intelligence, self-awareness, and leadership at the center of how people work together. If you followed Gary V, you've probably heard him say that culture is strategy. Claude has been one of the people responsible for turning that philosophy into something employees actually experience every day. She's the author of Be Yourself at Work, and I have to admit, it wasn't a book I expected. It's not another collection of productivity hacks or management frameworks. It's really a book about the cost of pretending. The idea that many of us aren't burned out because of the work itself. We're burned out because we're people performing a version of ourselves we think the work demands. And as I read it, one question kept coming back to me. What happens to companies when people stop managing impressions and start practicing self-awareness? And that's where we're going today. And really, Claude, I'm so excited to have you here. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, guys. It's so great to be here. I'm thrilled. That setup was like better than I could have expected. And Chad, like you, I have a couple NFTs stored somewhere there. I've got Empathy Elephant and a couple
There
other.
you go.
Yeah.
There's probably a monkey in there.
Yeah.
Funny thing is, I have Cynical Cat because there was some background I could get that was in front of a restaurant. It's like, I got to have the restaurant. So.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. I like it. Awesome.
Well, let's dig into. Oh, sorry, Claude. I'm so caffeinated and excited. Those two things are colliding right now.
I'm ready to rock.
All right. So, Claude, your title is the Chief Heart Officer. Now, that's memorable. but it also makes some executives immediately wonder if it's symbolic or operational. What does that title actually mean on a Tuesday afternoon?
Oh, I love that question. My gosh. The people that are going to roll their eyes at it, what I want to say to them is there's an enormous ROI when you put time and energy consistently into your people. And that is my job. My entire job description is to touch every single person and to infuse our agencies with empathy. That is the job. If Gary was right here next to me, he would say, guys, what's so hard about this? Claude sets the emotional framework for this company. Like, we need that. So that's the first thing I want to say. The second thing is there's no mushy gushy. I'm certainly a very kind and thoughtful, conscientious person. I respect people. I'm a believer in people. And when you're a believer in people and when you're a natural coach, you also have to know when it's time to give someone the wheel to see if they're able to drive that car. You're a passenger. And to see what happens. You also have to have the ability to have candor. Like, hey, man, we decided that you were going to take a straight road, but you took that left. Great, cool, understood. However, you get that the client's not happy with the left. So what are we going to do about that? So I would say there's enormous amounts of kindness and thoughtfulness and all of that stuff that is me. That is Gary. That is very focused on the possibility of human behavior and humans. And there is I have to be really candorous. I have to come in sometimes and be that sheriff with as much grace as I can, but also say, my friend, we've had this conversation now 5 times and it's not working out. So I think it's time for us to look at what's next.
Thank you for that. Chad?
So, Claude, let's say you're a CEO, you're part of a leadership team, and you've seen Gary talk about culture and the power for building teams, for making a profitable business, and you're inspired to do it. You're inspired to say, we need to hire a CHO. What's a mistake they might make if they didn't listen to what you're about to tell me?
Well, they just might hire a person that is a culture champion, which is great. Don't get me wrong. That's a big part of what I do. But that's not the whole enchilada. The reason that I am, when I started a CHO, I rebranded what you normally call HR into people and experience. The people part, that's the gravity right there. The people part, the experience, that's retaining people. And that's not just a foosball table or drip coffee or whatever, whatever people drink these days. Matcha.
It's not pizza parties.
No, it ain't pizza parties. The experience is, what is this person's full experience from the moment they enter their CV into our system? The 12 years, 7 years, 5 years that they spend with us. And what is it like as they leave, whether or not it's voluntary or involuntary? So I think the misconception is this is culture and I'm throwing parties all day. Or you're having someone come together and do book club and cupcake club and all of that. No, I haven't set up one book club or one cupcake party. I attend them sometimes, but that's for other groups to do within the microcosm of the macro culture.
Before you joined VaynerMedia, what experiences shaped your belief that leadership is ultimately about people instead of the process?
Oh, that was when I was probably 19. Yeah.
Really? That far back?
Oh, yeah, for sure. When I left college after my sophomore year, as I write in the book, and I went on a 93-day wilderness leadership program with Colorado Outward Bound. And that is when I learned what leadership is. That is when I learned what tough love is. That is what I learned how you can marry kind and tough love together. When it's 4 a.m. and your instructor, AKA the leader, is saying, get up, sleep when you're dead. We got to climb 3,000 feet. Like, we've got to get up. I'm part of a team, right? Like, I'm sure he would have liked to have slept in too. And then we go and we have cowboy coffee that's just filled with grain, coffee grounds.
Yeah, a little gritty.
Start climbing. So On Outward Bound is where I learned the tenets of servant leadership. And while I believe in that, I don't call it servant leadership anymore, for obvious reasons. I call it empathetic leadership or human leadership, whatever. I call it leadership. But that's where I learned that if you are a leader, your job is to work for your people. They don't work for you. There's no one that works for me. Sure. Do I do people's reviews? Absolutely. But I'm not sitting here going like they're on my team. I don't like that. For me,
You work with.
Yeah, I work with and I work for 2,000 people across the globe. That is what I do. And the idea of leading with love is something that I think I got even way before I was 19. I think I just picked up from family and picked up from the kind of tennis captain I was, but also the kind of coach I was. Like, I'm a natural cheerleader and I believe in that without the pom-poms. And to be a natural cheerleader, you have to be willing to give people subjective feedback. Subjective because it's coming from Claude, right? It's not the grader. So, there's so much to leadership that I think is right at our fingertips and we either ignore, avoid, or just walk past. And there's so much at our fingertips that it's so easy just to thank someone. It takes nothing, right? It takes absolutely nothing to come from a we, not I framework. The effort it takes is to recondition or unlearn habits that you've learned.
A quick follow-up question. You mentioned doing reviews. Do you do 360 reviews, meaning that when you review people, they have them review that those people get to review their leader and how they're being led?
Yeah. So we do that quarterly. We did away with annual reviews. They're quarterly reviews. Really, the only times that matter are 2 times a year when we do salary and promotions.
Right.
Yes, they're 360. They're peer feedback. You can get it from your leader. You can cross-pollinate. That's really important to me, is that someone over here on this team is able to give some kind of observation on the leader over here that they've liaised with on a project.
Yeah.
Without that, it just becomes a hierarchy.
Well, it's just one way. It's almost like picking on people. Like, well, you. And so it's got to go back. Bi-directional feedback,
and it's like, oh, Chad and Beck like me, so it's all going to be sweet. Right. But what about Susie, who I cut in line the other day because I wanted some coffee before she got there? Whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course. Chad?
So, Claude, going back to when you first joined the VaynerX team, what sort of changes were felt in the culture immediately, and what kind of changes took longer to develop and may still be developing?
Yeah, great question. So I joined in May of 2014. So I've been there 12 years, which is a century for me. That's a very, very long time. When I joined, the average age was 23. I was almost double that. So I think the first thing that changed was I was the first person that Gary brought in that had actual advertising agency experience. Everyone else was homegrown. So I had the knowledge of actually what clients are really like when you get to those other echelons where there's millions and millions at play, not just when there's a community management project going on, but when you're creating a whole, brand guidelines and then creating from there. The second and third things are the ones that I'm most proud of, which is I immediately removed the need for a college education, because I didn't want that to be a showstopper. Because when I looked around the floor in those early days, people looked very much like the three of us. And to me, that showed that there was very limited diversity. And again, not only because being inclusive is the right thing to do and the necessary thing to do, if you're going to be advertising, you need to be advertising to the macro. And then the other thing I did was I changed the nomenclature and the way we hired from culture fit to skill set fit and culture addition. And not only is that a language shift, but it's a philosophy shift, but you have to put it into practice. So that means we are hiring someone because of what it says on their job description, what we believe they can do based on these conversations we're having with them. We're trying to see if they are, they can reach potentially outside of even this job description. We're hiring them because they know what to do on day one and because they're an awesome person. They're curious. Maybe they speak 5 languages. Maybe they are neurodivergent in ways we haven't experienced yet. Maybe they are, they come from a different place. They know how to beatbox. I don't know, whatever. So that is what I like in terms of the culture edition, because I really truly believe that everyone at our company is pouring into this culture and also taking from this culture. But it's not my responsibility or Gary's responsibility. It's all of our responsibility. So I would say those 3 things, really, number 2 and 3, are the ones that were felt immediately. Obviously, you could see who we were now bringing in, what was happening within our walls, that kind of stuff. And then the one that Gary and I put into place, that we always have to put into place, always, because we're human beings, is really to find where the cynicism is stemming from. Where is the cynicism, the insecurity? Where is the cancer? Because we want to get to that as soon as we can, because it spreads.
Are you talking about the resistance to adopt things that you're bringing to the table, or the trash they walk in the door with?
All the above. I mean, mostly it's the trash we all walk in the door with, right? Which either we choose to leave behind, or we choose to be vulnerable and mention, I got no sleep last night, so I'm cranky, right? Yeah. And also, it's not the easiest business to be in, because creative, and that's our output, our product, it's subjective.
Yeah.
And you happen to like action figures, and you like children's drawings, and that's just the way it is, right? And you have to allow for the difference.
Absolutely. And celebrate it, honest, right? That's how you get to better places.
Yeah. I mean, that's the cool thing even about the screen, is that what you can visualize here is like a room filled with trophies and action figures. And like, I don't even know if I'm at GameSpot or what's going on there.
I've had people confused when they showed up. Like, am I in the right place?
Yeah. And then, I'm at Gymboree over here, and I'm like, I'm looking at Chad's children's pictures, which I love because I have them all over my house too. And I'm like, okay, well, I know already I'm getting 2 flavors here. Yeah. And that's cool.
Yeah. So I'm definitely eager to get into your book here, but I'd also like to talk a little bit about Gary before we could do, because I think that's formative, that led to some of these things in the book. And so sure. Millions of people know Gary through social media, and you've been beside him for years. And I was curious, like, what's something completely misunderstood about that man?
I mean, I think the first thing is that he is not loud, obnoxious, and dropping F-bombs every minute of every day.
What?
He's not out there screaming, you're going to die, or if you're 27, stop complaining and just do it. Like,
right.
He doesn't say that internally. That's the brand. That brand is called Gary V.
Right.
Right. And I work for Gary Vaynerchuk, who is, I would say, he's chill in a way that it's hard to describe. Like, he's chill just like us. He's energetic. I mean, he loves what he does. So of course he's going to be animated about it. But I guess that's the first thing, is I work for Gary, not the brand. And he's, what you see is what you get. And because our leader is like that, I truly believe it allows the rest of the culture to, what you see is what you get, to the best of their ability. We're not looking for anyone that walks in and talks about their GPA. No thanks. We're not interested. If you want to wear a suit and tie all day, that's fine, but not because we are. That's because you're comfortable in it. I think the other thing is, the thing that Gary is so great at is he is on the cutting edge of the 8 ball. He's following where attention is today, but really tomorrow. Gary does not look backwards. There is not a day he goes, you know what, let's ruminate about what we did 2 days ago. Let's waste our time there. He's like, learn and move. And so that, I think, is why he has been able to capture attention and relevance so well, because he's out there. He's on these platforms. He's reading the comments of what people are saying in niche forums, So the guy is brilliant in ways that a textbook wouldn't tell you that he was brilliant, I would say.
Yeah, I think the traditional approach would almost disregarded him if they looked at that button down approach to things, and it's really that owning his identity is such a powerful statement.
Oh my God. Yeah. And I'd say the
Yeah.
other thing, and this is unlike any boss I've ever had, is the amount of autonomy he gives everyone.
Uh,
Everyone. Now he wants to be brought in. He likes, get him to third base.
Yep.
That's literally it. Give me enough information to get me to third base. And then together we can decide if we're going to go home, we're going to run home, or what we're going to do there. So, but within your job description or your remit, you have so much space to create.
Yeah.
And be you and put your stamp on it. And Chad puts his stamp on it. And then again, like we're just a richer culture because of that.
There's something so powerful about agency, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And especially when people really understand, like, it's okay. You don't actually even have to ask. Just do.
Love it. Love it. Chad?
One of the things I most associate with Gary, which does tie into your book, is how frequently he'll talk about one of the biggest dangers to the culture of an org is that high performing jerk. Now, there are other words he's used to describe that person, but I would say, that there's a question in that. It was like, what if that high performing jerk is being their authentic self? So how do you handle that, right? When that toxic person is being authentic, they're being them. So where does that self-awareness need to override?
That sounds like fit.
Self-expression?
Well, that's a great question. I haven't had it phrased that way before. What I'm going to tell you immediately is then we made a mistake in the hiring process. So that's on us, not them. If that person is who they are and they happen to be a jerk and an a-hole, and we didn't catch that in their language or in any of those interviews, then that's on us that we have a jerk within our ecosystem. That's the first thing I want to say, even if the person is the highest performing or whatever.
Okay.
So as you can see, what I just did is I pointed thumbs at myself rather than pointed fingers at the jerk.
Mm-hmm.
Jerk's just being a jerk because that's how the person is. So then what's the next step? What do you do? Well, then you try to figure out why this person is a jerk. Why do they think they need to micromanage? Why are they misogynistic? Why do they think they need to, swoop in at the 11th hour and just like kill the project?
Yeah.
We all have to work until 4 a.m. the next day. Like, why? And a lot of times that's going to stem from an insecurity or someone's quest for perfection. Well, it's impossible to work on a team and strive for perfection if you're the only one knowing that you're striving for perfection. Like if you sit down with your team and you're like, all right, team, we are going to be the A team, and this is how I'm going to get you there. Train, this, that, that's one thing. But if you're on the team and you have a team of 10, but you're operating like a team of 1, well, then that's not going to work. That's not a collaborative team member. That's called an individual contributor, and you might be better off consulting or freelancing on your own.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
One last question before we get into your book on Gary. Gary's known for speed, ambition, and execution.
Yeah.
Right. And you're known for empathy and emotional intelligence, your EQ.
Yep.
Why do these two approaches complement each other instead of headbutt?
Yeah. Well, let's look at emotional intelligence for a second. Accountability is in there. Self-regulation is in there. Those things have to play well with empathy. They have to play well with ambition and result-driven organization. Accountability and empathy, you would think, are completely different beasts, but actually there's a relationship between them. Because if I am empathetic towards you and I understand what you're going through, it doesn't mean I'm going to drop my accountability on you, but that means I might help you.
Right.
I might want to dive in and help you because, you put your grandfather in hospice and you're having a terrible week, because that happens, because that's called being a human.
Yeah.
Right. So I believe that, the emotional intelligence and the traits of emotional intelligence work, if you work them and you're able to do something with them, which also takes into account accountability. It's one thing for me to be a generous person or a thoughtful person or a person that is able to show kindness. But if I am not able to self-regulate my emotions, I am no good here, because then I'm expecting you to clean up me. And that's just not fair.
It feels like a big part of that is mutual trust, that I can have a conversation with you and trust that you'll receive it, and they can have the conversation back and trust that you'll do with it the right things with that, and be
Yeah.
able to have them be heard.
Right. And sometimes you need a mediator. Sometimes you need someone from the people and experience team. Sometimes you need someone else to come in there, because let's go back to the fact that I don't work in utopia, and I work with humans, and we all come to work and turn on our laptops at 9 o'clock, and all kinds of stuff happen before 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
So am I okay with compartmentalizing that? Or is it better if I just say to people, you know what? Kids threw Cheerios on the floor and the dog got sick, and here I am, and I'm going to do my best for the next 3 hours, but bear with me. Right? That is a whole nother level of truth.
Right.
And
Right.
without that, without a leader or anyone being able to feel like they have the agency to share a little bit of vulnerability, well, then, I mean, you can't get far when you're talking to, a static robot. You just can't.
No. Chad?
Well, I want to make sure we get more into the book, and so I'm going to jump into it. I think it's not about authenticity as much as just ending the performance. And so you're saying that's what's performing at work is what's exhausting people. And I had always heard like people don't leave jobs, they leave bosses.
Mm-hmm.
So I was
Yeah.
curious, like, to jump into that and bridge that gap for me.
Well, I think that's what I was really actually just hinting at, which is there needs to be a connection between you and your boss or your manager, and connective tissue and some kind of relational intelligence between you and whomever it is that's going to be giving you a review, or those people that you care enough about their opinions. And there has to be a willingness to meet in the middle. Right. So what I would say is the thing that we can't expect is that work is utopia. Like work is just I'm going to walk in and I'm going to be on cloud 9 today because it's just work and I just love what I do. But I have to take into account all the other elements, all the other people, all the other energies and frequencies that are going to come into my world today and, maybe knock me off center a little bit. So in order to cut, I think the best thing here is, and we talk about this in the book, is how do you come back to yourself? How do you ground yourself? How do you find your center again when you are not in a calm situation? How do you calm the team down? How do you resolve conflict? How do you deal with adversity? Everyone's afraid of AI. Are you able to steady the ship by being that incredible captain and leader, but also being transparent about where you're at? Like, I don't know what the future holds, but I can tell you right now that if everyone is not tinkering with AI, then I'm not going to be able to help you next year. So please tinker, please play, please get lost in one of the agents and have fun with it and see what you can produce. That is what will at least give you a job at some point. So I'm going on, this is a roundabout way of answering your question, but basically there's so much to take into account when you walk through those doors. And knowing yourself and being able to be vulnerable enough or transparent enough to say, I didn't have any coffee yet, so it's going to take me at least an hour to even hear you. And like, what happens? Okay, so you chuckle. Great. Okay, I'm human. Cool, thanks.
I hear that from this guy a lot. Actually.
Yeah. Well, it's true. I'm the same way. And when you are able to do that and let down your guard and say, I didn't have coffee yet, guys, so bear with me. Okay. So you just created a connection and now people know where you're at. Maybe I'm not going to be able to be the best at emotional, psychological safety right now. You might have to find that yourself, or you may not need to find that in someone else, because I am trying to just ground myself. But these are the conversations that we need to have more often. You have them with your soccer team. You have them when you go out to drinks with your boys or your girls. Like, you're real. Oh God, I had a shitty day, right? That's what you say when you belly up to the bar or whatever. So why can't we say that at work?
Claude, one of the reasons I was so excited after I read your book, to write a review about it was it meant a lot to me personally, right? As somebody that is diagnosed ragingly neurodivergent, a little bit odd in there too. People like me wear masks all day long because we expect that's really, I'm like, this is me, right? We wear masks because we want to be the people that people expect us to be, and it is exhausting. It is really exhausting. And people that aren't neurodivergent still go through that in the workplace too. But, as I read your book, it wasn't about authenticity. It was about ending the performance. And so when did you realize people weren't exhausted by the work and they were just exhausted by the acting? Because I know how tired I am when I get home and I have to go, I can finally be myself, hum, whistle, sing, and do all the crazy stuff that it just makes me be able to just digest the world.
I mean, you got to come to Vayner because we do that all day long.
I'll be there.
Right. I think the way I can answer that question is when I started to see people having joy at work, enjoying work, making friends, having a laugh, high-fiving in the hallway. When you can see the culture being made in these micro moments, that's when you can see like, oh, this person's not burnt out on the work. This person's burnt out because they're not high-fiving or because they walk through the hallway with their head down or they're afraid to say hi, right? Yeah. Or we're afraid to say hi. So I don't know when I learned that, but I've been in the working world a lot and I myself have had so much joy and I myself have hid and I have shrunk myself in the workplace.
Yes.
And the cost to myself was immeasurable and nothing I wish to ever go back to. And a real reason that I wrote this book is that I'm exhausted watching people shrink. I don't even mean to be exaggerating, but watching people come in as giants. Chad, we hired you. We interviewed you for 3 months. We're so excited. You are who you are. We're stoked. And 6 months later, Chad's performance hasn't even got off the ground because he has felt like he can't speak up in meetings, or there's the loud person that always takes up the space, or X, Y, and Z. And so think about the 360 view you need to be having in meeting rooms or on a Zoom to make sure that there isn't that one person that's going to take up all the chat and Chad isn't going to be able to insert himself. Amy's not going to be able to insert herself. So that's, stopping the performance. My hope is that when we are able to actually get that for ourselves, we will be that much braver at taking up space, at being big in the room. We hired you to be big in the room. We did not hire you to be a note taker. We have AI for that.
Thank you for that. I love that. Yeah.
So Claude, I want to ask you about the employee's perspective, especially someone who's marginalized or maybe a junior employee, and they feel like by just the work in the workplace or just the options they feel are available to them, and they feel pressure to perform in the interview, to get your job, perform in the role, to keep the job because they're afraid, well, not every company's VaynerX, and this is what I got. How would you advise them to approach their situation?
Yeah. And I'm really glad you brought that up because again, and I say it in the book, I write all of this from an entitled place that I can walk into most rooms and be accepted at least, right? At face value. At face value. You don't know what you're going to get from me until I open my mouth, but you'll hold the seat open for me. And so I want to always just start with that. It's not a worry I have when I walk into a room. However, there are people that are being marginalized, ignored. There are people that feel like they have to code switch constantly. And I do think that there comes a time when you yourself have to make a decision for yourself. Are you willing to do that every day? Are you willing to code switch so you feel like you fit in? That's the first thing I want to say. That person needs to make a choice. However, the culture needs to be smart and be observant. How many people do we think are code switching? How many people of color have we lost or let go of in a year? What is going on? Let's examine that. We need to look into that. Was that because we didn't do this? We didn't do that. We didn't take into account whatever. Like there's so many avenues to look at when you're looking at a person and a culture or the entire body and a culture. Like I said, your head can just spin round and round like The Exorcist all day if you're not careful. But the other thing I will say is I'm a massive proponent of people using their voices. And that can be really scary. So who is it within the workplace that you have? Have you made a friend? That's the first thing I'm going to say. Do you have a buddy you can talk this out on? And not in a cynical way necessarily, but literally like, I'm really struggling. Like I feel like I have to speak like I have a PhD every day and I don't. And it's like seriously wearing me out. Then I think you speak it out loud to someone. And then hopefully you will find a way to either speak to someone in your people team or maybe even your manager. Like, here's an example. Here's an example I can use for me. I am dyslexic. I talk about it in the book. I am. It's just the way it is. It's a superpower now. It was not always a superpower. But one of the first things I tell people at work when I meet them all on orientation day on the screen, or if I'm having a fireside chat with our residents or interns, and if you're dyslexic like me, we have tools for you. Come see me afterwards. What does that do? That just told this entire floor that however you see me, I'm going to help you. You may see me as like holier than thou, or you may see me as a rinky dink. But what I'm telling you now is I have it and I'm going to help you. This organization is going to help you. And that is what other organizations need to do to bring in that inclusivity and that feeling of not only belonging, but that you matter. You matter enough for us to take into account that there's 12 people that just told us they have ADHD. What are we doing about that? Do we have a quiet space? Do we allow people to wear headphones? That kind of stuff is so necessary for not just one person, but many people to be on the ball.
Claude, in the book, you introduce emotional optimism, emotional bravery, and emotional efficiency. If someone could only master one of those, which do you think creates the biggest ripple effect?
It's a tough one for me because I don't think things move forward without the optimism. Now, optimism isn't blind faith and it's not toxic positivity. It's hope, belief, and possibility that things can be different. So without that, it's very difficult to then take a brave step forward. Right? Without feeling like, the little engine that could, I think I can. And I'm going to get support around this. I don't have to do it alone. Like, I think you really need somewhat of a belief in yourself. And if you are able to only eke out an inch of belief in yourself, please have others around you, a support system that can also hold you, right? So that you can have that belief that tomorrow it's going to be another day. I'm going to be able to go in to my boss or whomever and say, you know what? That was a really tough conversation we had yesterday. And as you can see, I got really emotional. And I'm wondering if we can have 15 minutes next week to talk about it again. Okay, great. I can breathe again. But you have to be able to believe that your voice has a place.
It matters.
That you have agency to speak up. You know what? That person could say, nope, I'm done with you. Well, then you have your answer. Then back to Chad's question, it may be time to hit the road, right? Go to a different department. So
fit is a two-way street.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So this all comes down to this relationships, and are we able to be smart in these relationships? Be smart. Be smart as a human in these relationships.
Thank you, Chad.
Curious who does this for you. It sounds like you're, the emotional shock absorber for an entire global org. So who's holding that space for you so you don't burn out?
Yeah, thank you. I love that. I've got people at work. That's the greatest thing. I have, a handful of people that I can go to or who can read me well enough to know me after 12 years. And I've got my besties and my partner and things like that. The thing I'll say is the work that we're talking about now, while it can be tiring, as in I'm tired. I squeezed that lemon as hard as I could today. I enjoy this work. This is really this is fun. This is spiritual work for me. I don't have to have all the answers. I can be that guide who wants to empower you to use your voice. I don't want to speak for you. I want to empower you. And so that, I think, that doesn't wear me out, empowering you. That doesn't wear me out, helping you find what's blocking you. That actually energizes me. And it really energizes me if I see you do something with it.
Claude, you write about that self-awareness is a responsibility.
Yep.
I think is a really powerful idea. Why do you think that so many leaders treat it as an optional personality trait instead?
That's an enormous question. Why do so many leaders treat self-awareness as
not that you can jump in their head?
Yeah, what I'm going to say is I think there's a very archaic way of leading that is still alive and well in our workplaces, which is very top down. I am holier than thou. I live in an ivory tower. You minions got to go do the work, but I'm good.
Yeah.
I don't need to do anything. I'm good. I made it. I have a C in front of my title. Like I'm the creme de la creme.
Right.
That's what I think goes on. And so that's why I feel as though there's many leaders that don't practice their own self-awareness, don't even talk about anything that would encompass self-awareness. And there's many other words you can use if you think self-awareness is too soft. You can use accountability. You can use responsibility. You can use things like, oh no, that's on me. And we don't do that enough in the workplace.
No,
I agree. Yeah.
You mentioned before we started recording that Will Gadara, a very famous and impactful person in the restaurant industry, reviewed your book.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious, connect the dots between the concepts you're talking about in your book with concept of hospitality that Will has very, very well exemplified.
Yeah. As I was saying in the beginning, I believe almost everything I've learned has come from the hospitality industry, waiting tables, bartending, busing, having patience with people is enormous. Being able to help someone make a decision is enormous. Being able to live with the ambiguity of knowing, like, you brought the food late. What's going to happen? Are you going to get tipped? No tip? All of those things. But the anticipation of someone else's needs is something I think we can all learn a lot more to put into practice. Right. So if I'm reading the room correctly, I'm probably going to be able to anticipate who's going to say the next thing or who's going to challenge what just happened. So for me, hospitality is how I set up the people and experience team, exactly like that. We are service to the organization. We are not in defense of the organization. We are here to serve and to partner with you, 2,000 people. That's the first thing. The second thing is the unreasonable part, the unreasonable hospitality. Yeah. Those are acts of serendipity and spontaneity. Those are, sending someone to the Knicks game with Gary. Those are maybe even giving someone 15 minutes with Gary who thought they'd never, ever, ever, ever meet Gary in their entire life. That might be World Cup tickets. That might be spot bonus. That might be, we've sent people to Australia. We've sent people to Hawaii. We've sent people to Portugal, all because of some Slack games we were playing. So the unreasonable part is going the extra distance to really make someone know and feel that they matter to us. And that literally can be a thank you note. from me or from someone else. So those types of things are so easy to do. And oftentimes if I'm doing a keynote and I'm on stage, one of the first things I'll say is, can everyone take out their phone, go through your contacts real quick, just stop, find someone that you haven't written to in about 6 months and just say, hey, I'm thinking about you. Hope you have a great day. Boing. Do that. Go make someone's day.
That actually stirs up something. So last year, Chad and I attended this conference, the Prosper Forum, and a keynote there talked about the epidemic of loneliness among high performers.
Yeah.
Right. And in an organization like yours, I would argue that, or I would think that many of those people would be deemed high performers, if not all. And there's a certain amount of pressure on high performers to be high performers and maybe not leak out those intrusive thoughts that are bothering them, or that home life, or all those things. How do you foster in that? And I know we talked a little bit about trust before, but how do you foster that inside an organization like that, where you can say, here's what's on my mind, and make and feel okay with that?
One of the biggest ways to create that type of community is through ERGs, employee resource groups, or CRGs, we call them, community resource groups, where you can find a sense of belonging in a microcosm, in a culture that maybe you identify with. Maybe you are LGBT IAQ, okay? So you might want to join the Pride chapter. Maybe you are a person that identifies as Black African American. You might want to join the Vaynoir. Maybe you have a seen or unseen ability. You may want to join Vayability so you can talk about what it's like to have ADHD in the workplace. Those places are there for employees to foster a greater sense of belonging, to also make friends, to also feel like they're not alone, to also feel as though like, dang, I can let my guard down right now. I don't have to go hunt couch cushions right now for change, right? So having those things, those programs at work are fantastic. Having someone, it's the whole reason I set up the people and experience team, to be that of hospitality. What can I do for you? How can I be there for you? Right? That doesn't cost you anything if you know how to do that in a healthy way. So,
Thank you.
yeah, I will say the epidemic of loneliness is enormous every which way. And I myself can fall into that sometimes. When, back to Chad's question, when I don't use my support network, when I'm like, I got this, I don't want to bother them with this, I don't want to text Gary about this. And then what he says to me is, but I'm the one that can answer the question. Which is like, he's really the only person that I can go to that can answer my question.
Wow. There are so many questions we have for you. I have all the stuff I want to talk to you about, AI and everything else. And I might even suggest, I'd love to have you come back and talk more, because I know we're not going to have enough time today to cover it all. Chad, one more before we hop into one more question for me, and then rapid fire.
Well, thank you for the extra time you're giving us, Claude. This has been so valuable. So I'm really trying to think about how we can make this valuable for our listeners. And I know some of them will ask, but what about the ROI, right? So I'm thinking about the CFOs, and they like this, they feel it, but they want permission financially to invest in the CHO, the programs, all of that. How do you think about that? And helping them understand, it's like, okay, even if that's your motivation, okay, that's there.
Retention, attrition percentages, right? Are you at 10%? Are you at 6%? Are you at 4%? That's huge. Who's staying? Are you retaining your employees with the programs that you're giving them, or with the roles that you're giving them? Obviously, there's a day in which we could look at absenteeism or how much vacation someone takes. That's really like cheap and cheerful. I really look at, are we retaining our high performers? Are we able to promote this person who's a high performer into that next role? Or do we have to wait because there's no opening there? And then I have to go translate that for someone, like, you're ready, but we don't have it. Right. So literally the idea here is, and we're really getting close to being able to quantify culture, quantify a flourishing culture, quantify what kindness looks like in the workplace. Like these are big things. We're so close, but really, like, listen, if you are keeping your talent inside, then you're not paying recruiters outside.
Yeah.
So that's a big one. I mean, and the IP that is retained. I mean, that's a big one.
Yeah.
And if we're talking to our hospitality friends, that means their guests are getting the benefit of that employee experience too, right? Claude, I have to imagine writing a book changes an author. What surprised you about yourself while writing Be Yourself at Work?
What surprised me, or I guess a couple of things. The first thing that surprised me was like how hesitant I was and how many times I put it down and how many times my own limiting beliefs came up as a person in her 50s, still there. I have nothing new to say. Everyone's saying the same thing, so forth and so on.
Head trash.
Yeah. I think that's the first thing that surprised me. It's like, oh man, that's still there. But that was actually like, okay, yeah, that's still there, Claude. You still have a lot of work to do. The other thing I think is really like there's such an excavation of storytelling. You really have to remember that it's everything that lives in my head makes sense. But how is it going to not only make sense to you, but how is it going to offer you something? Whether or not that's a lesson, a learning, oh, wow, she sees it the same way I see it. So you really have to have different eyes on it. It's not, the thing is the book's not for Claude. It's not for me. The book's for everyone. That's why it's so important for me to get it in as many people's hands or companies' hands. So that was important, that this is not for me. It's a very selfish endeavor, but it's not, the output isn't selfish.
You're going into it with the right reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. You ready for lightning round here?
I'm ready.
These should be quick, off the cuff answers. We shouldn't take too much longer. All right. One leadership cliche that needs to disappear.
That leaders are the smartest person in the room.
Best advice Gary V ever gave you.
Playing the long game. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Worst advice you've ever received. That's a whole laundry list, I would imagine.
Yeah, that's a big one. It's not advice. It's what a boss talked to me about once when I was like 25, and he came behind me and he whispered, everyone's replaceable. I was like, oh, that's really setting me up for success here.
Wow, that sounds great. Yeah. Let me get more of that.
Yeah.
One book every leader should read.
Setting the Table, Danny Meyer.
Absolutely. A morning ritual you never skip.
Coffee.
Me too. Love it. Finish the sentence. People become their best selves at work when?
You give them autonomy to spread their wings.
Okay, and the closing question. Imagine someone's listening who's sitting in their car outside the office. They're about to walk inside and become a version of themselves they think everyone expects. What's one thing you'd tell them before they open that door?
You yourself are worthy to take up space, just as you are.
I love it. I love it. Claude Silver, thank you so much.
Guys, thank you.
This has been amazing.
The best. Do it again.
Okay, let's do it. I'm holding you to that.
Let's do it. I appreciate you so much. Thank you.
Absolutely. So, well, everybody, thank you so much for joining us today with Claude Silver, with the Chief Heart Officer of VaynerX. If you haven't yet had a chance to find her book, Be Yourself at Work, I highly recommend you look it up. Claude, where can people get this book now? Is it, Amazon, retail outlets?
Yeah, all that stuff. You can go to my website. I'll say right now, if you're going to buy more than 10, come straight to me because I got a groovy discount for bulk.
Groovy discount. Do you have a website?
Oh, yeah. www.claudesilver.com.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And are you speaking anywhere in the near future if people want to go and see you, hear you, interact with you?
Yeah, let's see.
Warm up on that vibe.
I'm going to be at CultureCon in Madison, Wisconsin next week. I've never been to Madison. I'm really stoked. I've got a lot of good fun speaking coming up. I've got a fireside chat that I'm hosting with Gary, I believe, in Dallas sometime in September. So stay tuned for that.
Fantastic. Well, everybody, this has been Claude Silver, Chief Heart Officer of VaynerX, and it has been our complete privilege and pleasure to have you on the show. And for everybody out there that's listening, please take this to heart. Listen to it a couple times. I think there's some really good stuff that they shared with us. And please pick up the book, Be Yourself at Work. And for now, this is Chad, Claude, and Beck signing off here from the ChatGTM Podcast. And as always, in closing, random acts of kindness, sprinkle that stuff everywhere. You never know who they're going to make better. Just like Claude made our day amazing by spending a little bit of time with us. So thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Thank you, Claude.
Thank you.
What if the most powerful thing you could bring to work was yourself? Because how we lead begins with how we show up. The power of emotional intelligence, understanding ourselves, reading the room, and connecting with what's human. Emotional bravery. Explore what happens when we have the courage to speak out, stand out, and lead from the heart. Emotional optimism. The power of seeing what's possible, shining your light, and helping it grow. 3 emotional superpowers, and 1 very human way to lead. You don't need to become someone else to become a better leader. Be Yourself at Work by Claude Silver. Pick up your copy today.